Hello folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another interview. Third episode of the major interviews from the playoffs from Copenhagen in the Royal Arena. And this one is, as all of the other ones, I guess, a little bit more special because we have another guest that is returning on the panel. Another person that has been on the channel already and who was on the channel quite recently. That one someone that I'm talking about, of course, is the captain of MOUZ NXT. We're talking about 17-year-old Danish IGL Christoffer, who I had the pleasure of talking to both at the Major and a couple months ago at a longer interview online for the channel. So if you haven't checked out that previous interview that myself and Christoffer did do, it was a really long and really insightful and interesting conversation about his life, his career, and you know, his views of the game and his goals in life and what matters to him and what doesn't. You can go and check that out. And in case you've already watched it, well, enjoy this one too. Christoffer, my friend, the interview is going to be in English. It's a Bulgarian channel, but it doesn't matter. First of all, let me know, home city, first major in Denmark ever. Do you like it?
Of course I do. I mean, like, the atmosphere and the entire arena is doing like so well. I think I've been to all the Blast events, and compared to the Blast events in like this year, it's a completely different thing. It's incredible to watch.
Okay, so you've been here for a couple of days now. You've watched a couple of the games. Do you have a favorite game so far, and who you're rooting for?
Oh, I think maybe my favorite game had to be the Na'Vi Eternal Fire. I feel like it really delivered. Of course, I was cheering for MOUZ a lot, but I think sadly the pressure got to them. So I think the game overall fell apart a bit. But yeah, I think the Na'Vi game was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I want to introduce people to a little bit more. Obviously, the Bulgarian scene might not be as familiar, but the MOUZ NXT project entirely has been a massive success, right? You look at those guys that are playing on the stage, 4 out of those 5 people, well, 5 out of 6 if you're including the coach, right, if you're counting Cyclone, they did come out of the academy where you are right now. So is that an extra motivation for you to see how those guys are playing on the big stage and knowing that you're the captain of the academy right now and that could be you in a couple years of time?
Of course, I mean, thinking about Jimmy, my former teammate, you know, like a year ago he was playing in a Norwegian LAN. Now he's sitting on the biggest stages. I'm playing a major quarterfinal, you know, so of course, I mean, yeah, I think it's incredible, and yeah, of course I'm hoping to one day to take the next step. If it's going to be from MOUZ or it's another org, we'll see, but yeah, I mean, it's very motivating.
And you already kind of gave me a bit of a hint towards it, but what do you think went wrong for MOUZ, and how would you evaluate on their performance so far in the tournament, both tactically, performance-wise, individually? Because obviously you're an IGL, so you have that a bit of a craziness in your brain where you're probably looking at a game and you're like, oh, I don't really like that. I'm not the biggest fan of that. That was really good. They could have done that differently. Was there a little bit of that when you were watching them here?
I think watching them play like the legend stage or like the elimination stage or whatever you call it, I think they played very well, very solid CS throughout, and I think the amount of mistakes they made were very limited. I think coming onto the stage here, you could definitely feel there was a bit of nerves. I think especially on the CT sides on both maps, I felt like maybe like the pre-game plan wasn't really there, or wasn't executed at least that well. I think Inferno, they played a little like less for banana control, where I felt like maybe you should have been out fighting a bit more. The same could have been said for Vertigo, where maybe they gave a bit too easy. Of course, it's in hindsight, and I don't know what's been going on the server and whatnot, but I think that's probably where I would have changed maybe the approach a bit to go a bit on the aggressive side.
Okay, and we did mention that pressure is a big thing, right? And it's been a big topic with MOUZ, this entire team, you know, doing really well in group stages. Being one of the best teams in the world, group stage-wise, it's like watching Heroic back in the day, right? The Danish version. They just fly over everybody else when it's, you know, opening game, second, third game of the tournament. But then when it goes down to the big stage, they crumble. Do you feel like this is just a lack of experience of the team in general being in that situation? Do you feel like they're going to start winning trophies at a certain point? Because we've seen that happen a couple times in history, right? Astralis was like that at the start, too. They were doing really well, and everyone was just memeing with them just being the choke Astralis, right? And then they won one tournament on LAN, and they just started flying over everybody else. Do you feel like this is the same, or pretty much a similar case with MOUZ right now?
I think so. I believe in the future for sure they could like be the top dog, maybe even like start an era. I mean, it's hard to say, of course, but I think they'll have all the pieces, and I also think that with time they're going to be more used to it. I think the problem right now is that when you look to other top contenders, they have like a big game player, you could say, where MOUZ is a very solid team overall. They can all perform and be that big game player, but you have to have somebody that you count on. And I think right now they have to develop into that, one of them. And I think when that happens, it's going to be a whole nother MOUZ, or a MOUZ that can take it to the next level, you could say, right?
Okay, and one thing that I really wanted to ask you now, for the people that are going to be watching this interview on my channel in English, they know that me and you had a pretty long conversation about your career. You know, you're a pretty versatile player. You've had to be an IGL, an entry, pretty much all rifle roles, an oper, everything that. Now you're playing on an international team, but you're still Danish. So if you had to make the choice whether to play on an international lineup in that stage or on a Danish lineup, which one would you choose?
I mean, especially on that stage, I'd probably go with the Danish one, I would say. I don't think, for me, like, personally, it doesn't have or change quite so much, but playing in front of a Danish crowd, of course, I would like to stand there with 4 Danish guys. So, yeah, I think I would have to go with that.
Okay, going for the Danes, but now with that being said, unfortunately there's no Danish teams, full Danish lineups. It was Ecstatic that did extremely well, but they couldn't make it into the playoffs. But you still have Carrigan and Huxi. I mean, Carrigan is still playing on the TV. I'm not sure if there's a TV. Yeah, there's a TV right behind us. So he's still playing right now against Vitality, the third map. But Huxi's in the tournament too. So if it goes down to a final between those two, who are you rooting for?
I think I'm gonna have to go with Carrigan. I think he's been an inspiration, especially for me, like for such a long time. So I think I would have to go with him. Yeah.
Could you evaluate on that, by the way? Because obviously you're an IGL, and a lot of young IGLs, they have a person that they're looking up to, and a lot of the time the answer would be Carrigan or Apex or someone like that that's really successful and that's lifted a lot of trophies. But what makes Carrigan stand out compared to other IGLs? What makes him closer to your heart and makes it easier for you to associate yourself and want to actually, well, quote-unquote, steal things from his approach and the way that he leads the team?
I think what he does so well is like preparing for the games, like the individual opponent, like changing up for each game. I think what's very fascinating about FaZe is that they always have new tactics or new things coming into a game, especially big games like this. And I think that's something you can always look towards and like evaluate on as an IGL of how to approach big games, and I think that's something he does very well compared to a lot of other guys. Yeah.
Okay, and finally, you did say that you're supporting Carrigan. Does that mean that you wish for FaZe to win the entire thing here right now?
Yeah, I think so. I have to at this point. Yeah.
Okay, FaZe Clan is the prediction. Thank you once again so much for joining me for that quick conversation.